Good morning, Tottenham fans. Lots of rumours, lots of reports coming out today on X, Chris Cowlin, Sky Sports News, Ben Jacobs, David Ornstein, all coming out with lots of reports today. I just want to give my view on it. I'm going to give my logical view on it. The four things that were spoken about a lot recently is Spurs are going to be spending big this summer. Spurs are going to spend £70 million on Mbeumo and trying to hijack the Man United deal. Apparently, if you want to get Sonny this season, you're going to have to spend £50 million. And Romero is twerking to leave. So let me just talk about all of that today. So let's talk about Tottenham spending big. Now, for me, if Tottenham are going to spend big this summer, then somebody needs to check Daniel Levy's temperature because things seem to be changing, if that's true. But for me, how much is how big? That's the question you have to ask. So if you look at it logically, how much do they think is big? Now, if they say we're spending big this summer and they spend 100 million and they buy three £30 million players with 10 million left over, but these players are all young players that are 17 years old and upcoming stars. Really, we spent 100 million, but we haven't really strengthened the first 11. So how much is big? So for me, spending right is better than spending big. So let's say we spent 50 million on two £25 million signings, but these two £25 million signings are somebody that was two players that were data driven and Frank really wanted them and he knows he can improve them, then that's a good deal. If we spent 50 million on the next 17-year-old upcoming player, then we've wasted 50 million for now, but maybe not for the future, but for now. Also, the state of our squad needs homegrown players. For the Champions League. I'm not thinking about the Championship. We didn't get relegated, but we need quality players for the Champions League. But we need quality and homegrown. Otherwise, because we need to fill 4 gaps, and I think we've only got 1 at the minute, and I think that's Mikey Moore. And is he ready for the Champions League yet? In a couple of years, we've got Gray and Bergvall. They'll be ready to be homegrown players, but not yet. So that's going to hinder your squad's incoming. So what we've been told is we need to sell before we buy, and nobody's been sold yet. So for me, when you're saying we need to spend big, well, we haven't sold anyone yet to spend big. Yes, we've got rid of the likes of Werner, we've got rid of the likes of Reguilon and Forster, and that's the wages off of them is decent. We've got the Champions League money, we've got the Europa League money. So what about the news for Mbeumo, the £70 million that we've bid for Mbeumo? Let's put a little bit of logical into this. Firstly, don't clubs normally agree personal terms before they put in a bid for a player? I've not heard any news about personal terms agreed with Spurs. All I've heard is Mbeumo wants to join Man United. I think Ornstein came out not long ago now and said Mbeumo's still picking United. So it wouldn't matter how much money we bid. If Mbeumo chooses Man United, he's going to go there. And again, we haven't sold anyone yet. So how have we got the funds to go and buy an Mbeumo at the moment? Unless it's from the Champions League money. There's news on a sale for Heung-min Son, and the club are saying if you want to buy him, it will be £50 million. So the only clubs I can see paying that much money would be a Saudi club. Al Hilal, I think, want to buy him. He's not ruled it out himself in a statement that he spoke in a statement, and he's not ruling out that he may not be here next season. So that could still happen. So Spurs could get money in for that. The thing is with Sonny, I'd like to see him playing under Frank and not being overplayed like he was last season. And it's not Ange's fault he was overplayed last season. It's just we got mass injuries and Sonny played a hell of a lot and got really fatigued. And then people just accused him of not being at the right level. I don't think it was anything to do with that. I just think it was to do with tiredness and the fact that he was coming back from an injury and trying to play through pain. So I still think he's got a lot to give, and in a Frank system, he'll get played more to his strengths, where he can cut in and shoot and score goals like he used to before. So Sonny would still be a massive asset if he stayed. So I wouldn't mind even if he stayed. But would the club risk losing Sonny for free next season in 2026 if he doesn't renew his contract? Because it's in the last year of his contract in the summer. So I'm not sure the club would. So if a big offer came in for Sonny, then Sonny would probably leave. Sonny would leave as a legend, winning a trophy in his last season for Spurs, a European trophy as captain. It's probably the best time for him if he leaves now, and leave with his head held high, always being a legend and adored by the fans. He will anyway, even if he stayed. Also, Romero has made a statement straight after Frank's appointment. I think it's about 30 minutes after Frank's appointment, taking a dig at the board, thanking Ange for everything and not mentioning Frank whatsoever. So, is Romero twerking for a leave? Maybe he is. Maybe he doesn't want to be at the club anymore. But Frank's got a big job now to convince him and Sonny to stay. And if he can't convince them to stay, then if they both get sold, we can get over 100 million for both of them, I believe. I believe we can get 60 million at least for Romero. He's definitely worth it. He's a Europa League winner, a World Cup winner. He's won other trophies for Argentina as well. So Thomas Frank's got big jobs to do as soon as he comes through the door. So let's see what he can do with that. Either way, Frank needs to make that priority, because we need to get that sorted as soon as possible, because we don't want no unrest at the club. If Tottenham can sign Mbeumo, that would be a statement signing. It may be the kind of signing that could convince Romero and Sonny to stay, especially if we added a couple more quality players. If those two did decide to leave, then we'd have to replace them with quality players. We can't just bring in youngsters to replace these two. These two are captain and vice captains. You know, you can't get rid of your captain and your vice captain and then all of a sudden just bring in two 17-year-olds. It will not work, and it would weaken the squad and weaken the first 11. Frank really believes in data-driven stats and works really well with Brentford to bring in unknown players and develop them into top Premier League players. So don't be surprised if we signed unknown players, but then again, don't be surprised if these unknown players became very good Premier League players, because that's what Frank's been doing for the last 3 years now. And Mbeumo makes sense. He's played under Frank before. He's Prem proven, scores lots of goals, plays on the right wing. He ticks all the boxes. So let's hope talks develop more in these coming days. Frank knows all about developing players. If you think about it, Mbeumo came into Brentford, he was only 5 million. Tony came into Brentford, it was only 5 million. Both players were unknown players. Nobody really heard of them. I know Tony was playing in the Championship. I think he was playing for Peterborough at one stage. But he's developed these two players into really strong Premier League players, £60 million worth. Tony got sold for 40 million. David Raya was £3.5 million, and he sold him for like 32 million to Arsenal or something like that. The list goes on. Ben Rama was bought in cheap and sold for more. I think he sold for over 20 mil, bought for 1.9 million. Morpay was bought for 1.9 million and sold for 15 million. The list goes on. Ollie Watkins, I think he was only coming for about 5 or 6 million. I can't remember the exact price what it came in for, but it was very, very cheap, and he was very unknown. He was in the Championship, but he came in to Brentford and scored a lot of goals in the Championship for Brentford. So, you know, he translated that into the Premier League as well. And he got sold for big money. So Frank knows all about bringing in unknowns, developing them, and then making them worth 10 times more than what they came in for. So don't get frustrated if Frank does come in and sign players that you think, oh, that doesn't seem like a good signing. Because if Frank wants him, Frank knows that he's going to come in and do well for his club. Let me know in the comments what you think of today's news. Do you believe any of it? Is there any logical reason why we can't sign Mbeumo? Thank you for watching, and come on you Spurs.